Street photography is hard, no question about it. It takes a lot of hard work, patience, and dedication to really become good at it. But it can also be one of the most rewarding styles of photography, encouraging you to get out and explore your surroundings and also explore new places. However, when you are getting started, it can definitely be quite overwhelming and, well, just plain difficult. Over the years, I've made plenty of mistakes. Heck, I still make quite a few now, but thankfully I have learned a lot of lessons over the years. So if I was to go back and give myself some advice when I was starting out, the tips in this video will basically be it. So let's jump in. The first one is don't get discouraged if you feel uncomfortable getting started. This is easily the first thing I would tell myself back when I was getting started, as it is part and parcel of street photography. I think most people do feel a little bit uncomfortable when they're getting started. It can feel quite different to other types of photography, especially if you are taking photos of strangers in some way. My third tip will tie into this one nicely, but certainly don't feel discouraged if you feel like this getting started. It is totally normal and it will improve with practice. I can tell you it definitely improves with time and it definitely gets easier the more you do it. When getting started, just document interesting things you see. Pick a smaller camera to start with and don't put any extra pressure on yourself. You also quickly realize that nobody really cares if you're out taking photos. If you are worried about confrontations, well, my advice is don't be. They very rarely happen, and if they do, go about it in the right way, be polite, and you shouldn't ever have any issues. The next one is worry less about gear and also your settings. This point is a key one. On Instagram, I still get asked a lot, what camera or what gear did you use for these photos? Or what settings did you use to take these photos? And honestly, sometimes it's helpful, but most of the time it really doesn't matter. There's so many cameras out there that you can take photos on. It shouldn't matter what gear you're using. Sometimes focal length might be good to know. But in terms of overall settings, again, there's such a broad range of settings that can achieve a result. Don't get too fixated on this. I've used so many different cameras and lenses over the years, but if I could go back, I'd tell my younger self not to stress too much about gear or settings so much. Yes, of course, you want that basic understanding of settings and how your camera works, but beyond that, there's so much room for experimentation. Exact settings, to me, actually matter less than you think. I know so many street photographers and also wedding photographers who shoot in auto modes or even half auto modes like aperture priority, for example, as do I for most of my street photography. This just allows you to worry less about your settings. You can just set your aperture and sometimes your ISO. Knowing there's such a large range of shutter speeds that are going to achieve an almost identical result in most cases. So you can really just focus on getting your shots, which is the most important thing when you're starting out. Likewise with gear, a good street photographer can almost get good shots on absolutely any camera. And when you're starting out, it's good to have a nice simple setup and perhaps just go out with one prime lens. That said, a compact camera like the Canon R8, which I recently reviewed with a small prime lens, can be a great choice. I also really love some of Fujifilm's cameras for their more compact size and overall quality. But remember, the best camera is always the one you have on you. So whatever you have, really experiment and explore with that first before you think about upgrading or what to purchase next. Number 3, don't feel you need to shoot right up in people's faces. I think this can be maybe a common misconception because street photography is so broad and there are so many styles within it. Don't feel you always need to be really intrusive just to get a good shot. So this ties into my first point. Sometimes if you feel you need to do this, no wonder it can be quite overwhelming to start with. Again, there's so many different styles of street photography. Find out what you enjoy and what works for you. But for me, even studying the greats, the ones that really inspire me aren't the ones that always shoot right up close in people's faces. They really have this ability to incorporate people into more of an overall scene to help tell a story. So I would have told myself this when getting started, really focus on an overall scene, not just right up on an individual subject. Lately, I'm really loving a lot of work where you can't even really recognize the subject. I think this leaves the viewer even more open to interpretation inspiration when viewing an image. So I know for me, when getting started, I thought this was a necessary part of street photography to get good photos, and this is why I probably overused longer lenses when I was getting started as well, because you could get up closer to people in their faces without having to physically get close. And this probably got me into some bad habits as well. I'm a little bit torn because using longer lenses like this getting started, it did help ease me into street photography, but it does really limit your eye and the type of shots that you are able to capture. So if I could go back and give myself some advice, it would be to shoot a little bit wider if possible as you get more comfortable with it. Incorporate that overall scene into your shots, not always using really shallow depth of field as well. It also doesn't have to be super wide. Personally, I really like using somewhere between 40 to 50 millimeters to incorporate that overall scene. Number 4 is to study others. I think this is one of the best ways to learn, but also to draw inspiration from following others. And I think it helps to really get away from the screens as well. So I definitely advise myself to explore outside the world of Instagram, looking more at photo books and even visiting more galleries wherever the opportunity comes up. Doing more of this, I've found that it really does hit differently just to looking at work on a screen, and it really helps get me more inspired. Like my last point, this will really help you see what styles of street photography you're drawn to as well, which will not only help you improve, but also help define your own style as you grow over time. So I would say spend time studying others' work, study what you like about it, and how you can incorporate this into your own photography. Number 5 is adapt a learner's mindset and practice patience. So let's talk about the importance of patience and being in it for the long run. So I've been doing street photography, I think for well over 6 years now, probably more than that actually. And I would say it's only the past year or so where I've started feeling a lot more comfortable, and I can see myself improving a lot more. So it does take time. Even looking at my friends and other people I follow who shoot a lot of street photography, I see a similar pattern. It wasn't something they just excelled at right from the start. The ones I really look up to, you can see their growth, but again, this happens over years. So I think knowing this when you're starting out is actually really useful, and continuing to adapt that learner's mindset throughout, knowing there's always room to improve. So when starting out, remember this is a craft that you will take time to develop. Yes, the more you do it, the more you will get better, but this happens over the long run. So keep practicing, have really deep intentions about what you're doing, and study street photography. And remember, to me, this is all part of the fun. If street photography was easy, it wouldn't be anywhere near as enjoyable. To me, I really like it because it is challenging. Even now, after doing it for years, it's still hard, but this is part of the fun. So enjoy the process. Yes, you will get better the more you practice it, so keep at it. All right, that's it for this video. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed it. If you have any more tips, let me know down in the comments. Keep on creating and keep on growing, my friends. I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.